Okay, my friends, here it is. The first video in the indoor mushroom cultivation series that we'll be doing on this channel over the winter. Now, in this video, I'm just going to give you an overview of the process, and I'm going to introduce you to the terms and the terminology and explain what that is so that you have a more complete understanding of the process. Because it seems like it might be really complex and hard to do, but it's actually not, my friends. Growing mushrooms indoors is very simple. You just have to make sure that you get a few things correct and have the proper understanding. So let us get right into it. First, I'm going to say what the process is, and then I'm going to break it down word for word. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a substrate, we're going to inoculate the substrate with mycelium, and we're going to allow the substrate to colonize. Once the substrate is fully colonized, then we will place the organism into a fruiting chamber, and we will then fruit the mycelium, and it will produce a mushroom, which is a fruit. We will then allow it to grow to maturity. We will then harvest the mushroom and consume it. That will be one flush. We'll then place the organism back into the fruiting chamber, and it will grow another mushroom. We'll harvest that. That will be our second flush. And we'll do it again, place it back into the chamber, and possibly a third mushroom, a third flush will come from that. So that's essentially the process. But now, what do all those topics mean? Let me explain real simply. The substrate is simply the material that the body of the mushroom is going to grow on. So it can be straw, or it can be sawdust, it could be wood chips, it could be coffee grounds. Depending on the type of mushroom and the cultivation method will determine this exact type of substrate to use. For example, this is a bag of spawn, which is just a concentrated source of mycelium. And these bags of spawn have to be made really delicately, like sort of in a laboratory. So we will just purchase the bags of spawn from the North Spore Company, utilizing the link in the description and the promo code gardenlikeaviking to get 10% off and to help the channel so that we can keep making these videos. But a spawn is just a concentrated source of the mycelium. But it's still going to function in the same way. So you can see that the mycelium, which is the cotton-like stuff at the top, has just started to colonize the substrate, where there's just these little bits of colonization, of substrate, of mycelium happening. So as compared to this substrate, which is almost fully colonized, you see here how we would call it fully colonized when you can't see any more of the substrate. So this is real thick and fluffy like cotton. It's very different than mold, okay? So you can see it, it's nice and vibrant and alive. This substrate is fully colonized. So these are fruiting mushrooms because the substrate has been fully colonized because we inoculated it about 3 weeks ago. So utilizing the terminology that we just learned, let us go through the process, all right? We are going to sterilize the substrate. The substrate in this case will be straw, and I'll show you how to do all this in future videos, but I'm just giving you an overview. So we're going to take the substrate, sterilize it, place it into the container, and then we're going to take the spawn, which is concentrated mycelium, and we're going to inoculate the substrate and the container with it. We're then going to allow it to colonize for a number of weeks. And once the mycelium have colonized the entire substrate, we will then fruit the organism. We'll place it into the fruiting chamber, which is a fancy way of saying a place with decent airflow and really high humidity, 80 to 90% humidity. And then we will get these flushes of mushrooms. And that's basically it. So let us utilize this, for example, with the same terms that we just learned, okay? Because I'm recommending to you guys to start fresh with the Lion's Mane Spray and Grow Kit. And here's why. Because it'll help us to understand the process. So what is the process? Utilizing the terms that we're learning here. Okay, we're going to buy the Lion's Mane Spray and Grow Kit from the company, and they are going to send us a container of fully colonized substrate. the mycelium has fully colonized this substrate by the time we get it, because the company has already done all of that. So once we get the fully colonized substrate, we are going to slice an X in the front plastic. And that is going to allow oxygen to hit the mycelium. And once the mycelium senses the oxygen, it is going to say, okay, now we've hit the surface. It's time to fruit. And so now the mycelium is going to trigger the fruiting, because the mushroom is the fruit of the organism, but the actual organism, the body of it, is the mycelium that is on the substrate. And so it is then going to grow given the right conditions being high humidity. So we will, this kit comes with a little spray can, a little spray bottle. And so 2 to 3 times a day, we'll spray it. Make sure it's nice and moist. If our house is really dry, then we're going to put a plastic bag over it with a few holes in the plastic bag, or a tote, or I'll show you different ways in a future video on how to maintain high humidity. But it's very important that we do this, that we maintain the high humidity. That's really the thing we have to focus on the most. And then the mushroom, after about 2 weeks, it's going to grow to this level, and then we're going to harvest it and consume it, and I'll show you a video on how to do that. And then we're going to let it fruit again. This is actually the second fruit for the lion's mane. And that's basically the process, guys. It really doesn't have to get more complicated than that. So familiarize yourself with this. Watch the video twice or 3 times until you can understand, okay, what is this? This is mycelium that has colonized a substrate. All right, and this is concentrated substrate, so it's called spawn, which we will inoculate our sterilized substrate with in the future, you see? So make sure that you understand these terms so that in the future videos, I can just ramble them off and show you exactly what I'm talking about, and you'll have an understanding of this, all right? So if you would like to do this with us, utilize the links in the description and get the lion's mane spray and grow kit is the first one. And then we'll use the yellow oyster spawn to do these buckets next. And then it's gonna get real fun, okay? Use the promo code gardenviking for 10% off, and give the video a thumbs up and leave a comment. First thing that comes to mind, just leave a comment. Helps the channel to grow, and I will see you next time, my friends.